Inside the fenced yard, some chickens and ducks roamed, and an old brown dog lay at the door, dozing. As he approached, the dog stirred, wagging its tail in welcome. "Simple Ken, you're back." A middle-aged woman came out, frowning at the sight of him. "It's rock and wood again. Where are the fish and shrimp? Have you been tricked again?" Simple Ken didn't say a word. He just grinned and scratched his head. Seeing this, the woman felt annoyed and helpless. She patted the mud on his shoulder and said, "Quick, take off your clothes. I'll wash them for you. Look at how dirty you are. It's like you fell into a mud pit." As he undressed, the woman continued, "By the way, breakfast is ready. Eat while it's hot. Remember to wash your hands before eating. Also, I'm going to town to sell vegetables later. Don't run around at home. When I come back, I'll bring your favorite pastry." Simple Ken was grinning even more foolishly upon hearing it. "What are you standing there for? Go eat." The woman rolled her eyes and carried a basin of dirty clothes out, heading toward the stream. He watched his wife leave. When she was out of sight, he went back inside to have his breakfast. The meal was sumptuous, including a bowl of oatmeal, meat pies, 2 eggs, and a pot of homemade pickled cucumbers. Simple Ken relished his meal with a hearty appetite, delighting in every bite. At that moment, the dog at the door suddenly started barking. He looked up and saw a white messenger pigeon fluttering its wings, landing on the table. It remained motionless as he took the paper from the pigeon's leg. His eyes showed a complex expression when he read the contents. After a long silence, he sighed lightly and mumbled, "It's been 10 years, and the inevitable has finally come." Quietly standing up, Simple Ken burned the paper. He released the pigeon, tossed a meat pie to the dog, and went to the yard, retrieving a long wooden box. Upon opening the box, a rusty iron sword lay inside. "Old friend, it's been a while. Please accompany me on this final journey," Simple Ken said, gently stroking the blade. He then flicked his finger. The iron sword began to vibrate wildly, shedding rust bit by bit until it revealed a menacing edge. There was a subtle resonance between them. This sword was unmistakably the #1 sword in the world, Dragon Sparrow. Simple Ken meticulously wiped down the Dragon Sparrow sword before sheathing it. After coming back inside, he cleaned up the plates and cutlery, meticulously tidying the entire house. He then proceeded to chop wood, fetch water, and attend to the chickens and ducks. Once all chores were completed, Simple Ken changed into a fresh set of clothes. He stood at the doorway for a moment and eventually stepped out with the sword strapped to his back. The moment he emerged, a little girl with braided hair hurriedly approached, aged around 5 or 6. She bore a slightly grimy face with delicate features that hinted at potential beauty. Her cheeks showed signs of recent bruising, and a trace of blood near her nostrils suggested she had just been in a scuffle. Simple Ken, the little girl, balancing a cluster of fish and a few crabs, reached him and proudly declared, "Look, Simple Ken, I got your stuff back. Aren't I amazing?" Another fight? Simple Ken crouched before her. "They were bullying you, trying to trick you out of your things. I made them give it all back, and when they refused, I gave them a good beating," the little girl, with an air of defiance, asserted. "Don't think I'm weak just because I'm skinny. I'm really strong. I made them cry. These things aren't worth it," he said, shaking his head. "I don't care. I won't let them bully you." The little girl, with determination in her eyes, stated, "You're my friend, and if anyone dares to bully you, I'll fight them for you." "Friend?" Simple Ken smiled, his eyes carrying a touch of indulgence. "Hazel, I'm lucky to have a friend like you. Before I leave, I want to give you a gift." Simple Ken took out a book from his pocket and handed it to Hazel Black. "This is my life's work. I'm passing it on to you, hoping it will be of help to you." "A book?" She scratched her head. "But I can't read." "It's okay. Read it when you learn to read," he smiled. "Okay," Hazel nodded. Then, as if she realized something, she exclaimed, "Simple Ken, you're acting strange today. You usually don't talk much. What's so strange? Simple Ken asked with a smile. You seem not silly anymore, Hazel said, tilting her head. I was never silly. He smiled and patted her head. Let me tell you a secret. I'm not called Simple Ken. I have a name. Look, this is how you write them. He wrote his name in cursive on the ground. How do I read this? Hazel looked left and right, completely puzzled. This is Seth, and this is Hughes. Together. They're Seth Hughes, he explained with a smile. Seth Hughes. That's too weird. I think Simple Ken sounds better, Hazel said with a pout. Okay, if you like calling me Simple Ken, then call me Simple Ken, Seth laughed. Simple Ken, are you going out? Hazel asked again. Yes, to a very distant place, nodded. Very far. Are you going to the city? I've never been there. Can you take me with you? She asked eagerly. Not this time. Maybe next time, he refused. Oh, Hazel felt a bit disappointed. Hazel, you have great potential and are destined for greatness in the future. Then you can go wherever you want, and no one can stop you, Seth consoled. Really? Hazel wiped away her tears and smiled. Even though she didn't understand, his words sounded amazing. Of course, it's true. Seth wiped the grime off Hazel's cheeks. He grinned and said, Remember, Hazel, eat your meals on time and take care. I'm off. Hazel nodded as she watched him leave. Little did she know, many years later, that the book he gave her would become a priceless treasure coveted by many. By the serene village stream, women chatted and laughed as they washed clothes by the stream. Their discussions covered family matters and local gossip. A shout drew their attention. Look, a handsome guy. A few women turned around, their expressions shifting with slight surprise. Isn't that Simple Ken? Simple Ken? The woman in yellow observed more closely and finally recognized him, exclaiming, Oh, it really is Simple Ken. But why does he seem different today? His clothes are clean, his hair is in order, and that goofy smile is gone. I have to admit, he looks kind of handsome. Blossom, your Simple Ken is here, yelled the woman in yellow. Huh? Blossom Dale looked up, perplexed. In his usual good-natured manner, Seth strolled over with a smile. His once goofy appearance had transformed, with well-defined features and deep eyes that changed his whole presence. It was almost challenging for some to recognize him. Simple Ken? Blossom cautiously called out. Blossom, I'm going on a lengthy journey. It might be quite some time before I return. I'll be relying on you for things back home, he said with a nod. His coherent words left everyone taken aback. From what they knew, Seth had never strung together a complete sentence. Typically, he stuck to repeating a few simple words in a somewhat comical manner. However, in that moment, he spoke with clarity and a resonant voice, presenting an unexpected change in character. You can talk. Blossom stared in disbelief. Thank you for taking care of me all these years, Blossom. Being your husband is my greatest joy and fortune, Seth expressed. His words flowed clearly and meaningfully. He continued, You've shown me warmth, taught me the meaning of life, and transformed my dull existence. I used to be arrogant and deluded, thinking I was extraordinary. Meeting you opened my eyes to what truly matters 3 meals a day. Happiness and peace. 1. He approached and handed her a crystal necklace. I didn't give you anything when we got married, so here's a gift to keep you safe. Where are you going, Simple Ken? Blossom asked anxiously. I'm going to help someone and make amends for the past. Seth replied, smiling. Will you come back for dinner? She asked, trying to smile. I'll try my best, he promised her. I'll cook grilled ribs tonight. Make sure to come back, she said. All right, he nodded and, with a heavy heart, left. Blossom watched his gradually receding figure. She remained in a daze for a few moments and then, recalling something, took a few steps forward. In a shaky voice, she shouted, I still don't know your name. I'm Seth Hughes, he answered without looking back. his voice echoing with a subtle resonance. The sword whisperer of West Lucosia, Seth Hughes, at Zenith Society in the Serenity Hall, a well-dressed, refined man took out a parchment scroll from his treasure chest. The parchment's cover boasted 3 bold words: Astonishing World List. Zenith Society's Astonishing World List housed the most elite warriors globally. There were no age restrictions, no gender biases, and no discrimination based on age. It was solely based on merit. However, it was a given that those who made it onto the list were celebrated and legendary figures. Breaking the seal, the refined man carefully unfolded the parchment. The contents were concise, listing only 10 names, from top to bottom. Top on the list, Orion Foyer of Sacred. Worm Summit second on the list, Alaric Draken of Dragon Guard. Third on the list, Seth Hughes. The Sword Whisperer of West Lucosia fourth on the list, Cyrus Hadley. Guildmaster of Sword Union fifth on the list, Alloy Marshall. Guildmaster of Celestial Alliance sixth on the list, Penelope Salas. Leader of the Mystic Arts Order. Seventh on the list, Frostbane. Guildmaster of Frostbane Citadel eighth on the list, Caesar Fent. Head of the Martial Arts Union ninth on the list, Elder Shade. Bounty League Leader 10th on the list, Nestor Wilkins, Palace Attendant. Scanning the list, the refined man picked up a pen. He marked a check next to the name of Nestor Wilkins at number 10 and then moved the pen upward, checking next to Elder Shade's name at number 9. Report. A disciple from Serenity Hall rushed in, handing over a slip with urgent news. Guildmaster, I just got word that Frostbane, Guildmaster of Frostbane Citadel, has left the city. Oh, the refined man raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. Frostbane had guarded the city for 10 years without stepping outside. And now, unexpectedly, he had broken his own rule. Where did Frostbane go? He asked. He's heading directly toward Oakvale, likely going to Quandary Mountain, the disciple reported. Scenic Monastery at Quandary Mountain. The refined man quickly caught on and smirked. Interesting, he said, first Nestor, then Elder Shade. And now even Frostbane is in motion. It seems that Logan Reese is in for a challenging day. Serenity Hall, renowned for selling information, was well connected and informed. In times of major events, Serenity Hall always knew first. For instance, last night, the entire Oakvale was already in turmoil. But this morning, there was even more commotion from various directions. Report. While he was contemplating, another disciple from Serenity Hall hurried in and presented a message slip. Guildmaster from the direction of West Lucosia. There's a sword aura rapidly approaching. Sword aura? Who is it? The refined man immediately asked. Judging by the sword's intent, it should be Seth Hughes, the Sword Whisperer of West Lucosia. The disciple reported. Even Seth Hughes is making an appearance. The refined man narrowed his eyes and said, with Seth in action, the one from Dragon Guard won't stand idly by, and Martial Arts Union will also show some movement. The entire world is about to experience a seismic shift. The Astonishing World List, with 5 out of its top 10 elite legendary warriors in action, was an unprecedented occurrence. The established world order was inevitably on the brink of disruption. Whether this turn of events was a blessing or a curse remained uncertain. At that moment, the refined man seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation and promptly instructed, "You two, quickly notify our chief guildmaster. It appears that the Astonishing World List is on the verge of a major reshuffling." In Elka at the Regal Observatory, a slender, white-haired elder sage gazed at the disarrayed divination charts on the table. His brows furrowed deeply. How could this happen? He found it hard to believe. He attempted divination several times, but all the results were the same. For a moment, Elder Sage's expression became even more grim. "Master, what's wrong?" Behind him, a veiled woman spoke up. Grace had never seen Elder Sage so distressed. "Grace, something big is about to go down. I just divined the outcome of the Scenic Monastery incident, and the signs are ominous." It might mess with the fate of the nation, Elder Sage said with a heavy tone. Affect the fate of the nation? Does that mean Logan is going to die? She raised an eyebrow. Last night, she had specifically reminded and even provided a talisman, hoping that nothing would happen to Logan, because if he were to fall, it would undoubtedly lead to a cascade of battles, turning the land into a river of blood. It has nothing to do with Logan. When I speak of the nation's fate, I'm talking about a vital force. Elder Sage furrowed his brow. He continued, in this scenic monastery incident, someone might disrupt the vital force. If that happens, the nation will be in chaos. A great calamity will be imminent, and the entire Dragon Marsh will undergo a drastic change. Is it that serious? Grace's eyebrows tightened. As a member of the royal family and a disciple of the Regal Observatory, she naturally understood the importance of vital force. Once disrupted, it would lead to political unrest, power transitions, and, in severe cases, even a change of monarchy. Master, is there any way to rectify this? She inquired. The die is cast, and there's no changing it. From now on, we can only go with the flow of fate. He shook his head with a sigh. Elder Sage had attempted to glimpse into the future, seeking a solution. Yet, the instant that idea entered his mind, it was as though an unexplainable force had struck him, leaving him with a pounding headache. It manifested as a premonition, a clear warning. If he were to proceed, he would undoubtedly face severe consequences. As if the universe itself resisted the change. The matter is grave. I must return and inform my father. I hope you can understand, Master. Grace nodded with respect. Futile efforts, even the royal family can't change anything. Elder Sage shook his head again. Regardless, we have to try. Her gaze remained resolute. Very well, you may go. Elder Sage no longer stopped Grace, sighing softly. You carry a unique destiny. Although you can't defy fate, you might be able to mitigate some losses. Thank you, Master, Grace said and decisively turned to leave. In Wyvern Ridge, within a grand palace, a majestic statue sat atop a sacred platform, enveloped in the sweet scent of smoldering candles. Kneeling before the statue were more than a dozen people immersed in quiet contemplation, as if they had long entered a state of deep meditation. These were members of the Dragon Guard, the most mysterious and powerful force in the Dragon Marsh. Though their numbers were small, each was a grandmother martial artist capable of withstanding armies. The Dragon Guard remained hidden in the shadows, revealing itself only to the very few who were aware of its existence. Even many scions of the royal family were kept in the dark, let alone common dignitaries. They were not subject to imperial jurisdiction. The Dragon Guard held a position above the throne, while not involved in national affairs. Every decision made by the organization was mandatory for the king. To put it simply, the Dragon Guard was the true ruler of the entire Dragon Marsh. A red spear at the forefront of the palace began to shake. The crimson glow around the spear intensified, accompanied by a deep, resonant sound, as if it were about to pierce through the sky. Hum? In an instant, the Dragon Guard members, who had been deep in meditation, opened their eyes. Confused whispers filled the air. What's happening? Why is the Founder's Spear moving? The Inferno Fury Spear, which held the title of the world's top spear, has long been divine. What could threaten its existence? Could a formidable enemy have infiltrated Ilka? They exchanged uncertain glances, trying to make sense of the situation. As the Crimson Spear continued its persistent vibrations, cracks began to appear on the surface of the stone statue, serving as the altar's centerpiece. These hairline fractures rapidly spread across its entire form. After a brief moment, the statue burst open with a loud explosion sound. Subsequently, a white-haired, red-eyed man slowly rose from the altar. The man's tall figure, cold demeanor, and fiery red eyes exuded a palpable intimidation. Congratulations, Founder, for emerging from seclusion. The members of the Dragon Guard immediately paid their respects, their faces filled with awe. The white-haired founder is none other than the chief guildmaster of the Dragon Guard and the second-ranked powerhouse on the astonishing world list, Alaric Draken. What's going on? Alaric brushed off the debris from his clothes as he descended from the altar. His crimson eyes betrayed no emotion, giving off a presence reminiscent of a god indifferent to his surroundings. To regular people, Alaric's existence was no different from that of celestial beings. With a mere snap of his fingers, he could turn someone into dust. Founder Inferno Fury Spirit just acted strangely, as if it reacted to something, a member of the Dragon Guard reported. Strange signs? Alaric turned to glance at the red spear behind him and extended his hand. The red spear emitted a soft hum, rising directly into his hands. Closing his eyes, he concentrated and soon obtained results. So, the Dragon Sparrow sword has made an appearance. No wonder you're so excited, he muttered to himself. Upon hearing his words, members of the Dragon Guard expressed surprise, and some even showed signs of anger. The Dragon Sparrow sword. Could it be the #1 sword in the world? As far as I know, the Dragon Sparrow sword is currently wielded by the sword whisperer Seth Hughes. Has he arrived in Oakvale? HMPH, the audacity. Without the Dragon Guard's decree, he dared to trespass into Oakvale. He has blatantly defied the authority of the Dragon Guard. Upon hearing about the appearance of the Dragon Sparrow sword, reactions varied from astonishment to resentment. The Dragon Guard held imperial power and controlled the major affairs of the realm. Anyone or any force, regardless of who they were, had to bow in submission before the Dragon Guard. Seth entered Oakvale territory without any prior notice, showing a complete disregard for the authority of the Dragon Guard. This act was a clear challenge to their organization's power. Guard the vital force. I'll go out and take a look. With that, Alaric's figure flashed, turning into a streak of red light that disappeared into the sky. After his departure, the Dragon Guard members didn't stand idle. They promptly activated the Mountain Protection Array as a precaution. Wyvern Ridge, housing Dragon Marsh's vital force, served as the cornerstone for the Dragon Guard. This vital force not only influenced the nation's destiny, but was also an exceptionally rare resource. Practicing it expedited the members' cultivation, propelling them forward at an accelerated pace, as compared to training outside the world. Moreover, the spiritual energy from the vital force had healing properties, addressing internal injuries and extending life. Continued absorption promised a longer and more robust life. The founder was a prime example. Thanks to the vital force's blessing, their founder became the second strongest in the world. Upon arriving at Swallowvale's suburban Quandary Mountain after a 2-hour drive, Dustin reached his destination. Quandary Mountain was secluded, showing minimal signs of human activity. The mountain road was singular, evidently untouched for quite some time, and adorned with overgrown weeds. At the mountain's foothills, he took a deep breath. Looking upward, he could faintly make out the contours of a monastery crowning the summit. Ascending the narrow path step by step, Dustin experienced the tranquil ambience of Quandary Mountain. He was occasionally accompanied by the gentle rustle of the wind and the subtle sounds of insects and birds. In stark contrast to the lively atmosphere of Oakvale, this place felt like entering a different world. Dustin made his way unhindered to the summit of Quandary Mountain, finally stopping at the entrance of the monastery. Hanging above the entrance was a sign with 2 large words Scenic Monastery. The monastery was neither large nor small, and it appeared quite ordinary, showing signs of age and wear. Who would have thought that the once influential Prince of Carson would hide in such a small monastery? Dustin lightly knocked on the monastery door, but was met with no response. After a few seconds, he knocked again, with more force. Coming, coming, a childish voice echoed from inside. The door opened, revealing a 7 or 8-year-old novice monk who peered out and curiously asked, "May I help you, sir? I got lost in the mountains and happened to see a monastery here. I thought it was convenient to ask for some water. Is that possible?" Dustin spun a tale. Of course, please come in, the novice said without suspicion, opening the door and inviting Dustin inside. Rare to see an outsider, the novice was excited, bombarding Dustin with questions like, "Where are you from? How did you end up here?" The novice added, "There are many wolves and leopards in Quandary Mountain. Luckily, you got lost during the day. If it were nighttime, it would be dangerous. Are you hungry, sir? There's some vegetarian food in the kitchen. If you don't mind, you can have some to fill your stomach. Oh, by the way, if you don't know the way, I can guide you down the mountain later." "Thanks a lot." Dustin smiled faintly. He found the novice monk quite interesting. "Don't mention it." The novice grinned. Master said monks should be compassionate. If someone is in trouble and we can help, we should. Saving a life is worth more than a gold mine. "May I ask how many people are in your scenic monastery?" Dustin asked, changing the topic. "How many people?" The novice counted on his fingers and said, "We have Abbot, our master, and 2 of master's colleagues, plus me. So that makes 5 of us. Among your 5, is there a monk named Lumen?" Dustin asked again. "Lumen?" The novice was puzzled. "Sir, do you know our abbot?" "I don't know him, but I've heard of him," Dustin said casually. "Abbot Lumen has a great reputation, and I've always admired him." "I didn't expect Abbot Lumen to have a great reputation. No wonder Master and Master's colleagues respect him so much," the novice exclaimed. "Can you take me to meet Abbot Lumen? I have some doubts and would like to seek his advice," Dustin said. "No problem. Follow me," the novice readily agreed, leading Dustin straight to the monastery hall. However, just as they reached the entrance of the hall, 2 muscular monks appeared out of thin air, blocking Dustin's way. In their piercing gaze, wariness and suspicion were evident. "Sir, please stop. This hall is a sacred ground, and outsiders are not allowed inside," the monk on the left said in a low voice. "I've come to see Abbot Lumen. I hope you can make an exception," Dustin said calmly. "Abbot Lumen is in seclusion and does not meet outsiders. Sir, please leave." The round-faced monk on the left gestured with his hand. Unmoved, Dustin calmly said, "If Abbot Lumen is in seclusion, then I'll seek an audience with Prince of Carson, Donovan Linzer." Upon hearing this, the expressions of the 2 monks swiftly changed. "Who are you? Why are you here?" In the solemn hall of Scenic Monastery, tension filled the air as the 2 monks swiftly positioned themselves to block Dustin's path. Their eyes, sharp and vigilant, betrayed an unusual wariness. These monks, having secluded themselves for years, rarely encountered outsiders. The sudden appearance of a stranger, especially one seeking the prince, heightened their concern. "I'm Logan Reese, here to pay my respects to the Prince of Carson. I hope you can let me through," Dustin calmly stated. "Logan Reese?" The monks exchanged astonished glances, unprepared for the reappearance of the man who had been missing for a decade. "Mr. Reese, this is a monastery. There's no Prince of Carson here. You've come to the wrong place. Kindly leave," the round-faced monk said with a serious tone. "Gentlemen, I've traveled a long way with genuine intentions. I'd appreciate it if you could announce my arrival inside." "Thank you," Dustin said respectfully. "Don't force our hand. Our monastery is small and can't accommodate such an important figure. Please leave," the round-faced monk sternly replied. "What goes around comes around. Abbot Lumen planted seeds 10 years ago, and now it's time to reap what was sown. Endlessly avoiding the world is just denial," Dustin declared. "I don't understand what you're saying," the round-faced monk retorted. "As I said before, our abbot is in seclusion and won't see outsiders. Please leave. I've spoken kindly enough. If you insist on stopping me, then I have no other choice but force my way in." Dustin's expression turned cold. Regardless, he was determined to see Donovan Linzer today. "This is a sacred place. You can't behave recklessly here," the round-faced monk warned. "If you don't leave, be prepared to face our resistance." The other monk grew impatient. "You can try." Dustin proceeded to the monastery hall impassively and disregarded their warnings. How impudent! The two monks, angered, prepared to attack. But a stern voice suddenly echoed within the hall. Stop! At the command, the two monks immediately ceased their actions. Both of you, don't be disrespectful. After scolding them, a monk in yellow robes walked out of the hall. The monk approached Dustin and said, Lord, have mercy, Mr. Reese. Your presence at Scenic Monastery is our honor. The abbot is aware of your visit. Please come inside. With that, he stepped aside, allowing Dustin to enter. But the round-faced monk's expression tightened. Then he said, this Mr. Reese has an unknown background. We must stay vigilant. This is the abbot's decision. You have no right to question it. Step back. The monk in yellow robes commanded. Yes, reluctantly, the round-faced monk stepped back, but his watchful eyes remained fixed on Dustin. Mr. Reese, please. With a slight nod, the monk in yellow robes led Dustin into the monastery hall. In the modest monastery hall of Scenic Monastery, simplicity prevailed with no extravagant adornments. A statue of a saint, towering at 10 to 15 feet tall, was placed right in the center. Despite its unassuming appearance, the hall was lit by the warm glow of candles. The area surrounding the saint's statue was impeccably clean. In front of the saint, a slender middle-aged monk sat with closed eyes. He was adorned in the distinctive attire of his order, holding a strand of rosary beads. He quietly recited passages from the scripture in silent devotion. The yellow-robed monk approached, whispering, Abbot Lumen, Mr. Reese has arrived. Donovan ceased his activities, stood up slowly, and greeted Dustin. Greetings, Mr. Reese. It's been a while. Indeed, 10 years have passed. Dustin nodded. Should I call you Abbot Lumen or Prince of Carson? Your Highness, I've left my former titles behind. Just Lumen is fine, Donovan replied, lowering his head slightly. All right, Dustin said with a faint smile. Lumen, I've come today with some questions that I hope you can help me unravel. Are these questions related to events from 10 years ago? Donovan asked. That's right, Dustin confirmed. A decade ago. You hadn't embraced monkhood yet and wielded considerable influence in Elka. You possessed information that could shed light on certain matters. I was hoping you could reveal the truth to me. Mr. Reese, why cling to the past? Donovan's expression held a mix of emotions. The past happened, but seeking the truth isn't wrong, is it? Dustin replied. Some truths are better left unknown. Pursuing them might bring harm upon you, Donovan cautioned. I am prepared for whatever consequences may arise, Dustin asserted with unwavering determination. Mr. Reese, let go of the past. 10 years ago was a different time. Donovan sighed. Apologies, but I can't let go of this matter, Dustin said, shaking his head. And it seems even you haven't completely let go. Hiding in this monastery, immersed in prayers and meditation, Donovan was once the Prince of Carson. But why would he suddenly become a monk? Ultimately, it was because of guilt.